Hello and welcome to the Sarcasm and Liberty Wednesday night live stream. I'm your host, Mike Herstory, aka the Liberty Ginger, and two-person panel tonight. Everyone else, it's got stuff going on. With me tonight, Sarcasm and Liberty's own resident meme lord, Michael Leoncello. What's up, man? How are you?
How's it going, everyone? And well, just Mike. Um, I know we're losing about 10 minutes of airtime with all of our introductions, with everyone missing. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we might have to start shortening the show with that lost time because we just don't know what to do with the rest of it.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully, we start getting more people back, but we're getting that's kind of the time of the year where everyone's busy. Schedules are either changing or responsibilities are growing or whatever's going on. But once summertime rolls around and things slow down a little bit, we should start having more people back again and get back to a 4 or 5 person panel like we usually
Yeah,
have.
yep. God can only hope. Um, anyways, I'm sure everyone has been following, or if you haven't been following the Venezuela situation, there's been a lot of violence in the streets. There was a video going around where it looks almost like an armored vehicle or tank of some sort running into a group of anti-Maduro protesters.
I saw that yesterday. That was horrible. Oh, that was
Yeah,
scary. Yeah, so we talk all the time about socialist and communist regimes, about how they end badly, about how the people are mistreated willingly by their governments. And I don't know if people might know this or not, but back in 2012, hey, Josh is with us.
Hey,
What's
keep
the
going on,
dawn is
man?
here. The dawn is here.
keep going. I'll jump in a minute.
Okay. So back in 2012, Venezuela enacted these quote unquote common sense gun control measures by disarming their own people. And here we are now, 7 years later. You have a power struggle because people are upset, people are starving, and the government's doing well, but the people are not. Now the people are rising up. Well, you disarm the populace, so now you have the government trying to not only quell these protests, but you have the government initiating violence against these protesters. And how are they supposed to defend themselves? They have nothing.
Yeah,
They have
but
no weapons. They have no guns.
you know, Yeah, but I'm hoping, if nothing else, this kind of is a wake up call to all the people in the camp that are calling for these common sense gun laws, and why we have a constitutional right to carry.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I really don't think you're going to reach that crowd. I mean, we can sit around and talk about this until we're blue in the face. It's not going to matter. I'm sure you saw the news this week about how there was a shooting at UNC Charlotte. 2 were dead, several more were injured. And just like every other incident,
That's
within 5 minutes, people are talking about how we need common sense gun control.
that's something I wanted to bring up is like ready because I don't know if have you guys seen that video of that armored car just like running over protesters in Venezuela?
Yeah, the tank.
Yeah,
Yep.
and people are like, this is why we have the Second Amendment, and everybody's like, oh, it's your AR-15 is not going to do anything against an armored car. I'm like, oh, I get it. So we should just not do anything ever. Like we shouldn't even try.
I mean those people are exactly right, and that's why we need rocket launchers.
Right, because like my thing is like all you're doing for me is making a case of why we need hey, we should be able to have our own armored cars and everything. Like if the government can have it, then like how are these people supposed to be able to stand up against the government if they're just like they're stripped of even like basic firearms? It's insane. But I mean, like, I'm sorry, but like a giant group of people with AR-15s and like weapons and stuff, I'm like, they know what they're doing. Yeah, like everybody's like, oh, the U.S. wouldn't be able to stand up against like if that kind of stuff happened here. But I'm like, first of all, our military would be like immediately fractured, because if you think every person in the military is going to follow laws to like go after its own citizens, that's just not going to happen. Like there's going to be all kinds of chaos in the military. But I'm like I was in the military, and like, yeah, we have a really effective infantry. We also have a bunch of morons in the military that have no idea what they're doing.
Yes, we do. You are correct about that. I was also in the military, and I can personally attest to this.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm like, guess who's going to get called up first for that kind of stuff in the U.S.? The National Guard. They are not going to be able to handle something like that, like an actual like uprising. Like it would not go well for the military. They're not going to like be able to really, without just like really obviously making like it look like just complete tyranny. They would have to like start dropping bombs and stuff on cities and everything. Like they would have to just like obliterate the stuff. Like, it's not the same. Like people in this country, like they can see like, okay, we're dropping bombs on this city in Iraq, and it's different because it's on the other side of the world and you're so far removed and it doesn't even seem real almost. But once it's happening, like, in your home, like it's not going to be the same reaction. It's not going to be the same, just like, okay, well, whatever. Like people are going to start freaking out. Like people are going to start immediately like doing what they can to defend themselves. I think people underestimate like how like that kind of power struggle would go between the military and the civilian population in the U.S. And just how many people in the U.S. have guns, how many people in the U.S. are former military, how many people in the U.S. are like, really well trained with that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, but if the National Guard like came rolling through my town, I seriously think they'd get fucked up. like no offense to the National Guard people out there, but I'm sorry, like you're not like that trained for like combat on your own turf and stuff like that. And like, yeah, you're talking about like you can go into Iraq. It's going to be different. You're strolling through an American town, like, because it's not going to be the same as. This is one of the things the military does, is they have to like dehumanize the enemy. It's not as easy to do that when you're shooting your own people.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to be like, okay, I'm just going to pull the trigger. Like you can't just. It's not as easy to like separate yourself from that when it's your own like country, your own fellow citizens.
Yeah, and I think the silver lining in the situation, the reports are that this is happening a little bit over in Venezuela, is you're seeing some of the Maduro regime starting to switch sides and go with the people, because obviously the guns are all on the army, so controls the army, and you've already seen several soldiers switch their allegiance and bring the guns over to the opposition side.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's not happening in big waves yet because there's still the big air. The guns are, like I said, all over one side. So, pretty lopsided situation right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to say, like, I mean, that was like a thing you brought up, though. It's like, even in that country, there's already like a fracture in the military of like, like this isn't okay. What we're doing, what we're being told to do isn't okay. And that's what I've always said, is like, if that was to happen here, it is not like we would have the entire power of the military coming down on the civilian population. The military would be fractured overnight. Like it would, I mean, I personally myself, like if I was told like, okay, you're going to stroll through like Chicago and start rounding up protesters or run them over if they're in your way, it'd be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. Throw me like in jail or whatever you got to do, but I'm not going to go kill people in the U.S. because it's an inconvenience for you as the government. And like, there's so many people I know in the army that would have just, they wouldn't have done it. I'm like, there's no way some of these people, I mean, like, there would be people that would have just blindly followed those orders. But I mean, even, let's see, like, I'm going to say, I can't remember the name of it. It was like in Vietnam, there was like this, I think it was the Marines or something. There was like this massacre in this village where they just went like batshit crazy, this unit, and just started like mowing down civilian population. And even in that situation, like where it was like where they had just completely dehumanized the enemy, there were still people like, this isn't okay, this isn't acceptable, and were trying to stop it, like our people, you know. And like they were putting their lives on the line, even trying to stop it because of, you know, like they were trying to save these people because they were just innocent people there in this village. But I think, you know, like it's terrible. Like people can get that caught up in something like that and will like completely like separate themselves from their humanity. But, you know, not everybody is going to be like that. So you cannot say the entire military as a whole is just going to come down on the civilian population. I just would never see it happening that way. It would be an insane shock if that actually like it was like that cohesive.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you would see like right away if something like that came in, like even if it was just to take guns away from people, not even, you know, shooting anyone. I think 35% of the military would probably just say no, because
yeah,
that's my house too.
Right. I mean, like I think of how many veterans I know now, like that own guns and stuff. I'm like, yeah. And how many people, and here's the thing too, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people realize about the military. When I was in the military, the majority of the people I knew were very right wing, very pro Second Amendment.
Same.
Yeah, it was like few and far between when I saw somebody that was like very hard left. Like I saw some people that were kind of like middle ground or like, you know, kind of like more classical liberal, but like it wasn't very often I saw somebody that was like really progressive left. So I'm like, yeah, you take all these like people who really hardcore believe in like the American way and Second Amendment and all this stuff and say, hey, go around to the city and like, you know, completely betray all of your beliefs and your ideals and everything. I just don't see it going over that well.
Right.
There'd be a power struggle like immediately.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would be surprised if there wasn't even if there wasn't a power struggle just from the top. Like it would take a while before those orders would even get down, because there'd be people being like, I don't think, like generals and stuff being like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. Like I don't think we can do that. Like I don't feel comfortable. Like, you know, like I feel like even from like the way up, it would take a long time. Like that's where the fracture would even start, is way up high. It wouldn't start like where like, you know, the actual person rounding up the guns. It would start from like the people. Generals like trying to give the order. Some might go for it, but you're going to have a lot of people saying, no, we're not going to do that. That's not what we're supposed to do. Like it's unconstitutional. We can't do that kind of stuff. And I don't think it would take a lot of bad stuff would have to happen for like this country to get to a point where the government could even attempt to justify doing something like that. Like, especially with what's going on in Venezuela. But, so like that's not something that I've really felt like it's a great concern, but it's also like if it does happen, you know, like that's one of the things I always say, like that's why we are supposed to have the Second Amendment, because like if it does happen, because everybody's like, oh, you're not going to stand a chance against the military. I'm like, yeah, not if you keep taking like all of my ability to defend myself away. You know, of course I'm not going to stand a chance. Like that's why we're supposed to, like that's the whole point of the Second Amendment. Like you're like kind of, it's this weird argument of like you won't stand against the military, so the Second Amendment like isn't necessary. I'm like, well, no, because you keep restricting the Second Amendment as much as you possibly can, and you're like chipping away at what we actually can use to defend ourselves. I don't know. Like, I mean, people act like if we actually like, if it was like you could just go and buy a rocket launcher, you're acting like, you know, like suddenly everybody's just going to walk around and start shooting rocket launchers everywhere.
Yeah.
First of all, and I think It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did this thing because they were trying to like, it was like they played both sides of the argument, but these people went to this like gun show and they're like, oh, you know, like I'm gonna buy an M16 and I don't need to have a background check or anything. You know, the guy's like, oh yeah, we don't need to worry about the background check. And then like he gives them the price and it was like a really high price. The guy's like, no, need it like this price at the store I was gonna sell me. He was like, yeah, well, this isn't this is a gun show. I'm not doing a background check. I get to set my own prices. And like that's the thing people don't understand is like those workarounds aren't cheap, you know, like those like loopholes are not cheap. You can't just like, you know, like to avoid a background check, you're gonna have to shell out a lot of cash.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, what's a background check really anyways? It just means that no one has any history yet. I mean,
yeah.
You know,
I mean, like, that's the thing is like you look into a lot of like criminals and stuff. Like it's not like people who've like went off on it. doing stuff like that, there's usually not like a lot of times there's not a criminal history, you know, or like a real thing like that would prevent them. But there's also things of like where they go on these shooting sprees of it being in like a no gun zone, or there are places where people don't have the ability to be able to defend themselves.
Could you imagine if, since we're talking about the military, could you imagine if President Eric Swalwell had told the military to deploy nukes against all these gun-toting, Bible-toting Second Amendment red-blooded Americans?
Right. Yeah, that'd be insane.
Told that one private citizen that rising up against the government is pointless because the government has nukes and they're legit. He included the words "and they're legit."
You know, that tweet just read like you know, an old spaghetti western, you know, leading up to a duel. It's like, oh, it'll be a short war, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like how insane do you have to be? Like, and this wasn't him just like saying it. No, he actually typed it out and he hit the send button.
Yeah, that's just
how
ridiculous.
insane do you have to do that? Do you have to be to do that?
Yeah, I mean, imagine if a Republican, some kind of Republican politician, said that about something the left was protesting, like, oh, like you want to protest this? Well, we have nukes, so don't even try it.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of things too, just when it comes to like the Second Amendment crowd. Like I've often said, I'm like far more afraid of the anti-Second Amendment people because they have very loose morals. They try to like have this moral high ground, but they think it's okay to like, they'll flat out say things like, you know, we should just round up everybody who's a pro Second Amendment and shoot them. Or if you see somebody carrying like a gun legally, then like, you know, it's your duty to like try to kill them or something, or like try to like take their gun from them or call the police on them and like potentially have them get shot just for exercising their rights, you know, like that's
right.
Like they have these like super loose morals where they think it's perfectly fine to do like really horrible stuff that could potentially kill a person, like, and then they justify that and like it's better for society because then like, you know, there's not somebody carrying a gun. And I'm like, yeah, but you're pushing more authority onto the government. And like I have yet to meet an anti-Second Amendment person who doesn't also think that the government should have all the guns. Like that's insane to me. I don't know how anybody can justify that kind of.
Or if the government doesn't have all the guns, the government decides who can and cannot have guns.
Yeah.
Because that's what you hear with the common sense. Oh, well, we just want background checks. It's like, well, we already have background checks. We already have all this stuff. Things still go down. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just kind of the loose way of saying anywhere from, you know, a bump stock ban to, you know, banning every single gun and even maybe knives.
Yeah, I mean, like look at places like in the UK, like there's already pushes to like ban knives and stuff. It's insane. Like you can't give somebody you can't give those kinds of people like an inch because they will keep taking it further and further and further. And then from the chat, there's like they said gun-free zones need to be guarded just like courthouses and prisons. I personally feel like there just shouldn't be gun-free zones. But like if there's something like a specific building, like I would agree, like there needs to be like some specific people that should be allowed to carry like that.
Yeah, I mean,
not just guards, like people like that are vetted, you know.
Well, no. The thing is, like they put these gun-free zones up in public places, and then they talk about this gun-free zone, but you know what's actually gun-free zones that things rarely ever happen at. And I'm not gonna say it never happens because. It's a random thing. Any kind of store, any kind of private property, like you can have a gun-free zone. You don't want guns in your house. You can say, you're not coming into my house with a gun. You don't want your store. Don't come in. You have metal detectors outside clubs. Yeah. All these different kind of things like that. That works when you have people protecting their own individual property. That's where gun control works. And the safe zone. So
yeah, but there's also a thing too, though. Like I would say, like if you got something like metal detector at the door, if you don't have somebody prepared to deal with a gunman there doing that before they hit the metal detector, it's useless because If a guy's there with the intent to kill, he's going to be able to just mow you down and move on and right into the building. Like, you're not going to stop him. If you.
Oh, definitely. But it's like,
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. That's just one of the things. Though, like, you got to find people that are capable, prepared, and equipped to deal with that. Like, there. One of the things.
Because
Well, I was going to bring up real quick. Like, there was this place where like I was mailing something, like shipping a package, and it was this location in part of a strip mall, and I noticed a couple of the people in the back, like as they're walking around, they were open carrying, like this one guy had this big ass revolver, and another guy had a pistol. And I commented on it. I was like, that's actually really nice to see. Like, you guys open carrying, protecting your store. And then the lady started talking to me, and she was like, yeah, we started that because there was like multiple robberies in the area. And she said like they'll have people come in, and like their actual like open space for people is like really tiny because it's just people to bring your package up and then like pay and then leave. So there's not really anything for you to like linger around the store for, and then have like people like staying in there for like a really long time, like suspiciously. And then as soon as somebody like walks up with a giant ass gun strapped to their side, those people walk right out. And they're like, yeah. And they said like in that strip mall, almost every single business in the past year, at least one time, had some kind of a robbery except them. Because they were the only ones there that were willing to like carry guns, and because it was like this like little family-owned business, and they're like they all carried guns, and nobody went to that store thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna rob this store because they get fucking shot. But these other stores is like, yeah, it's open season because nobody can do anything about it, and the time it takes for police to respond is like it's not enough time for it's enough time for somebody to, do their deed and bolt before the police can actually get there and do something most of the times. So like I always say, like a lot of businesses, I think they should be more like well equipped for something. Like I would guarantee at every business there's at least one person that could be vetted and like shown to be like, okay, they are trained on a weapon. This is a person we can trust to like carry a weapon and stuff like that, and go through like some full process and allow them to carry. And then like that person's open carrying, that's a sign of like, do not fuck with this store. You're going to get your ass shot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head that, you gotta have some kind of defensive measure. And I think it also goes like, area and culture. Like, I can picture like, obviously a rich neighborhood is a target, but like, a bakery in like a rich neighborhood where, the whole town knows each other and everything. Like, you're probably not going to need, people armed to the teeth all the way down the hallway there. But if you're in the inner city, in a jewelry store, you might need a couple armed guards.
There's from the chat. This is actually something I find like, they say we have air marshals. We need like gun-free zone marshals. I think that's a good way of putting it. Like, you have this small area where like the introduction of a gun can be like really bad. So you have one person there that is capable of countering that, whether or not you want to keep them quiet, like you would an air marshal, or open carrying. I guess that would be up to the store. I feel like definitely having somebody open carry is like a huge deterrent for criminals, because there's the risk of like, I don't, I want to try to rob the store, but I'm not willing to die robbing this store. Because I mean, I've seen so many videos of like a criminal comes in the store, and as soon as a person from behind, like it's security footage, as soon as a person from behind the counter pulls out the gun, that person bolts or like shuts down, like their fight or flight hits, and it's like hard for them to like even know what to do because they're not anticipating that. They're going after easy, soft targets, that somebody who's going to panic when a gun is in their face, not somebody who's going to respond by pulling out their own gun and then threatening your life. Like that's the kind of deterrent that actually works for criminals. You can't just slap on some legislation, or as David Hogg would say, give them like a lawsuit, which somehow he thinks that's going to stop a bad guy.
That makes no sense. Like,
it was insane.
Was he even trying to say there? Like, he provided no context to it. He said, the only thing to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a lawsuit. Okay, explain.
I'm like, a bad guy with a gun isn't a bad guy with a gun because they haven't been sued yet. Like, it makes no sense. The only thing I can think he was trying to get at was like maybe suing gun companies for like being liable for people using their products in like a mass shooting. And I'm like, you can't do that because then you're opening the door for, if a drunk driver gets in a car accident, I can sue the car company for, you know, like being liable for them having this car. Like, it's just, you can't do that. Like, you're not responsible. Like, if you legally sell somebody a gun, you cannot be held responsible for what that person with the gun does with it. And like, if that, like, I can only imagine that that's what he's trying to get at, because I've heard that argument before, but like, it's just equally stupid because like, again, you can't like, you can't like be like, this is how you stop a bad guy with legislation or courts or, you know, this and that. They're bad guys because they don't give a shit about those laws. Do you think that like what they're already about to do with that gun is already illegal? Like, do you think they give a fuck? Like, the process leading up to that, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it I don't know, and we got like off topic there. I'm sorry, but
it's fine.
Yeah. And to get back to the Constitution end of it, you know, a lot of libertarians will say like, oh well, the Constitution is just a paper, and it kind of goes into the same argument where a piece of paper really doesn't do it, but you need the will to defend such a thing, and you know, if you don't have a gun, you just have the will without the means to
it's true, yeah. And I mean, like, here's the thing too, and this is where I also say, like, with the whole military thing, we went into like Iraq and Afghanistan, and like for a little while, like we got fucked up because they were using like IEDs and all this stuff. And like, and even still, like, we have some issues, and like we had to like that's how like our military had to like, we went from like literally some of our Humvees having like the door is basically just a tarp and the window is like this piece of plastic. And I'm not joking. That's literally what it was for a lot of Humvees. And like, it was just enough, like you could actually take the doors off. Like, we had Humvees where we just take the doors off. Like they were not like, a lot of Humvees weren't made for that. Some of my friends, they went into Iraq like when we first like were like, okay, like overnight, it was like of the official declaration, they drove into Iraq. They would take their like rucksacks, those like big backpacks, and have to like strap them to the side with like a bunch of stuff in it as a form of armor, because it was just like some wooden planks. That was the side of the Humvee that they were sitting in. You know, like, that's what we started with going into that country, you know, like, there's a lot of things that our military is woefully unprepared for, and they don't know what it's going to be until we actually get into that situation. And that's pretty much true for every single conflict we've ever been in. We go into it prepared for what we are used to, and then we're met with an entirely different engagement, and we have to adapt. There's going to be that, you know, adjustment period. But when you're trying to like wage war on your own citizens, it's going to be really hard to actually do that adjustment period, because you're going to have companies being like, you know, like, yeah, I'm not going to make weapons for you to declare war on U.S. citizens. You know, like, you're going to have people, like, contracts are going to be broken. It's going to be chaos, like insane chaos. Like, it's not just going to be this like swift, smooth operation. Like, we can't even do that like in countries where we have superior firepower. You know, like, it just, I don't know. Like, I just get really frustrated when people act like, you know, if there was like some kind of government tyranny thing here where we would actually need the Second Amendment, we just wouldn't be able to last. And then therefore the Second Amendment is pointless. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, it bothers me on multiple levels. One of the reasons it bothers me is that basically what those people are saying, that it's perfectly fine to just roll over in that case, to just be completely ruled over by a dictator because, you know, it's not worth the effort to defend yourself because you might be outmatched. I'm like, yeah, I'm glad, like, you know, back in the day, the founding fathers didn't have that mindset. And I feel like that's just where a lot of people are at these days. It's this mindset of like, there's not much we can do. There's no point in trying. Like, just roll with it.
Yeah,
It
and
just or
that's
just
how
be
you
rolled over.
and that's how you get into situations like Venezuela when
Exactly.
and I mean not just Venezuela. I know that's a ongoing topic, but
Hmm.
the same thing happened in Nazi Germany, and it's like
Yeah.
you think about what would happen if the
In
Jewish people
Italy,
were
with
actually
Mussolini.
heavily armed.
Yeah,
Yep.
all like Korea, North Korea, all over the place, all over the country. You can find examples of like once you start stripping away like people's gun rights, it's very easy for.
Speaking of Mussolini, have you ever heard of when he went down to Sicily?
No, I mean I've heard stories. I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
Don Chuchia, I think it was.
Okay, I don't think I'm familiar with this
He was
one.
just start. Yeah, he was just starting to like he just took power like probably like within the year of this time, and he came down
Okay.
to Sicily to establish his dominance over Sicily, and the local Don basically told him to keep his men unarmed. He's like you're with me, you're taken care of, and Mussolini basically didn't want to listen to him. So what Don Chuccia did is he ordered everyone in the town, because he went down here to make a big speech about how he's the new leader of Italy, and that Sicily is now under his jurisdiction. And this guy basically told the whole town just to not show up, and he spoken to a crowd of donkeys and pigs.
That's amazing.
And a
Oh,
few
that's
local
great.
idiots. He left a
That's
couple like
great.
local idiots out there, some cows and
Yeah,
pigs.
that's hilarious.
That's amazing.
Mussolini was like just the biggest. Like I don't know. Like I would encourage people to actually look up like his whole like rise to power and like how badly he just fucked everything up. Like it just seems like even Hitler, who was like honestly like he was a genius at like rallying people and like giving these like really passionate speeches at like just kind of like just warped people's sense of reality. But when it came to like military strategy, he was like the biggest fucking idiot ever. And he demanded like he insisted on having input on everything. But even Hitler looked at Mussolini like he was a fucking moron. Like almost embarrassed to like have to be associated with this guy because Mussolini was so bad at what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I just said, he basically just got made a fool of by some mafia boss in
Yeah.
Sicily.
And see, that's another thing. Like, just think of like the criminal element in the U.S. that our government already can't handle. Like, do we really think adding on the civilian population with weapons, the government is just going to roll through and everything's going like they're just going to wipe us all out? Like
Right.
these criminal elements are not going to be okay with like a tyranny thing, like that's not going to go well with them. They can't do what they want to do then. Like, so I'm like, we already can't deal with that. I'm like, and if people want to be like, oh, well, it's, there's a difference between like the police and the military. I'm like, it's not really anymore. I'm sorry. But like, we're giving more and more military stuff to the police and they still can't do anything. And then from what the chat said, like, I mean, like in the police alone misuse like their weapons and like all their stuff all the time. And then just think of like I could even see like a freaking standoff between the military and the police happening. Like it would just be all kinds of like I don't know. Before we'd even get to that point, I don't even know if it could get to that point in this country because I feel like the chain of command is going to fracture before it could even get down to the people that have to drive trucks through towns and start shooting people and stuff and running people over. So like that.
I mean, there's definitely armored vehicles. There have been a lot of, especially photos lately of different certain precincts getting these armored vehicles because of their high crime rate and stuff like that. Actually, one time, and this is about 8 years ago, I was in New York, and we got on the train, and we ended up getting off like way up in Harlem by accident because no one can read the goddamn New York subway train anyways. 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden I see like a police. and it almost looked like an armored vehicle. It was like all the way off in the distance because it was right near it was right in Central Park,
Okay.
but on the Harlem end. So it's like I see this big like armored truck like with police sirens. It wasn't making any noise, but you could see the lights and like they were like in hot pursuit with like a guy hanging out with a shotgun out the window. And it's like I saw this clear as day with my own two eyes. I immediately like, okay, we're going back into that train station, going back where we came from. I don't want to be in this neighborhood anymore.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like reading the chat. There's something I wanted to check on real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those things definitely exist, and they've existed for a long time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Somebody from the chat just said that Juan. I don't know how you say his last name. Guadio.
Yeah, heart attack.
Heart attack.
What?
Apparently. Is that like? Yeah, they said they just saw that on TV. Like just now is being reported on.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up to see if I can find like a news source.
Well, that just sounds convenient.
Let me look this up.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up too. I don't think it's going to be hard to find like articles that are, because it sounds like it's live on TV right now. So you might have to kind of be really specific about your search.
Oh
my gosh. You know what's crazy?
What's up?
So I'm looking this up on Twitter, and there are people having some, like, this is just some random conversation, but they're talking about Venezuela. And one of the people actually tweeted out, they said, why do I expect Guaido, or however you say his name, is going to die of a heart attack in the near future? Ron Paul had said something about this. He said, now what he had theorized was that this man would be assassinated and then he would be held as a martyr. What if this heart attack is something else?
That's creepy.
And
that's super creepy.
What if this is like CIA tactics to really, speed up the motion of this coup d'etat?
Well, I mean, like the CIA is not above that kind of stuff. I mean, there's tons of record of them. Like, I mean, like just look up all the insane shit they tried to take out Castro with, like seashell group, crazy shit.
Yeah, this is the group who tried to justify an invasion of Cuba by staging a terrorist attack in downtown Miami. Mm-hmm. They didn't actually go through with it, but they had plans for it.
Have you ever looked up some of the ways they were tried to like assassinate Castro? Like they had like one of the ideas they didn't implement most of them, but it was like they were supposed to like take, because he liked to go like scuba diving, so they were gonna like take the seashell and like fill it with explosives and like paint it bright colors so he would be attracted to it and like go towards it and then blow him up. Yeah. And then like they actually, like, one of the funniest things, like failed assassination attempts is like they had this like former mistress of his like go there, and she was supposed to poison him, and then like she couldn't go through with it and like broke down and told him about it, and then like like, oh yeah, that one worked out really well. Like, and I guess they, like, even from what I've read, like him and that lady slept together that night and everything. Like, she did not go through with the CIA. Like, yeah, just send this lady in that used to have ties to him. That's going to go over really great. And now, not only did you not kill him, now he knows you're trying to kill him. Like, the CIA is just stupid, but they do a lot of really shady stuff. Like, if you look into like a lot of like FOIA stuff, and then things that have been declassified, just things that they've done, like there's a lot of like crazy conspiracy theories out there, but when it comes to the concept of like the CIA trying to assassinate somebody just like for our government to benefit it from some way, I have no, like, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, I don't see that being reality. I'm like, no, because we tried it before. I don't see why we wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah, there is one thing that I read about one time, like another like plan they had was, what they were going to do is they were going to send 2 C-130s towards Cuba. And one of them was going to be filled with troops, and then the other one was going to be empty except for the pilots. So they were both going to fly towards Cuba. And so the one that was carrying troops, they're going to fly towards, but then they're going to like veer off somewhere and like go somewhere and hang out. It was 1960, so who's going to know where they are? And then the other one was going to be on its way to Cuba. It's going to get close, and then it was going to crash. And they were going to say that Cuba shot down the C-130 with troops on board, and now they're all gone. They
No.
were thinking of so many ways to justify invading Cuba.
Real quick though, like since the whole heart, because I haven't been able to confirm the heart attack thing yet, but if it's just not being reported on live TV, I'm not surprised. I can't find anything. But we should probably, like, if it is true, maybe kind of quickly go over the Juan. I don't know how do you say his last name? Does anybody know? Guaido.
I don't know.
We should probably quickly kind of go over
Guaido,
who he is
Guaido.
and, like, like his whole thing with that he's been doing.
Yeah, go over who he is in case it's who he was.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, some of just like there's a quick like couple bullet points of like anti-government protests took place in several locations on Wednesday, a day after opposition leader Juan Guaido tried to spark a military uprising against embattled President Nicolas Maduro. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. I know I'm butchering them. So if somebody's gonna like watch this eventually and be like, yell at me about it, but whatever. I'm sorry. Then there's not enough support. Guaido attempted today that the protests did not have the support of enough military defectors to declare victory. And by the way, this is an article today, May 1st. So like this was earlier today, like at noon. And then what's the background? A massive political and humanitarian crisis. Since January, when Guaido declared himself interim president, the country has had two men claiming to be its rightful leader. So like Juan Guaido seems to be kind of like this. I don't know. Like, what would we kind of label him as?
Well, he was the president of the National Assembly, and basically, the president of the National Assembly has like the air right to the throne, like to say if something happens to Maduro.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw like Trump recognized him as the new leader of.
Yeah. Because it seems like the U.S. is backing this guy, Juan Guaido, not the guy who was already in power.
How does the U.S. get away with doing that, though? Like, how can the U.S. just say, "Okay, you're no longer in charge. We want this person"?
Well, and that's the problem we have is we think we get to decide who is going to be ruling what country or like in charge of what country. But I guess there were a lot of military defectors towards Juan Guaido's side, but like not enough for him to like declare like a victory. So it seems like it's kind of like a coup going on. But I honestly think part of probably, I'm not entirely, and I don't feel like I know enough about this guy, but it seems like the situation in Venezuela, like if somebody's trying to like take over, it's probably because they've had enough of what's been going on. And I don't know if the reason we were backing him is because like we're trying to like, I don't know. It's just there's so much like iffy stuff going on here that makes me like really unsure of like what could be going on.
If the United States is backing a particular person, he's on the inside, at least in some capacity.
Yeah. But then like that's the thing is like if he has a heart attack and we like want to like, I mean, like we're going a little conspiracy here, but it's like, why would the CIA take this guy out if we were backing him? But like, I don't know. There's so much weird.
To, stir the pot, so to speak.
That's true.
Get everyone riled up.
Honestly,
that's the thing. You always gotta look for the why, who benefits.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a coup because what happened was he called for his supporters to take to the streets. I think the date was, the 27th, April 27th or 28th, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it was real recent.
And then obviously the next day you see all these reports of people getting mowed over. So this was kind of a planned attack, and again, going on conspiracy theory, but it might be like one of those crazy cover-up things to rile up the base against Maduro.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, because I mean, like publicly, we're supporting him. The government is supporting him, I should say. I'm honestly like, because I'm trying to like just quickly read through this, and I'm not entirely sure like what this dude like Juan's whole deal is, like what his intent is with this kind of coup going on. I'm assuming it's against the whole like socialist concept because that's what's been fucking that country over hard. But it sounds like he wasn't winning either, because like like the government in power in Venezuela is like flat out accused this guy of like staging a coup. He's had military defectors, but not enough to like have like an actual victory where he can for sure say like he's claiming to be interim president, but he doesn't have the backing to do so. Like he can just he can claim it, but he can't like enforce it yet. And it just seems like I would assume our government is publicly backing him because it's like their country has been ruined by socialism right now and in communism, and like we're backing him because I guess I would say like politically it's the like this guy trying to help his country is kind of that kind of view of like they've been struggling for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, I think no doubt America is doing it for ethical reasons and not for all the.
Oh yeah, of course. I would say that like anybody watching, I mean, if you guys have some input in the chat, or especially if you have heard anything else about this guy having a heart attack too, just feel free to comment, especially your input, like on what you feel like the situation is, or why we would be backing this one guy, or like, if you have any information we might have missed, that would be helpful too. Because like I'm trying to catch up on some of this because like I was familiar for the most part, but like I wasn't entirely sure of everybody's names and roles in this. So I'm still catching up on some of that.
I'm not seeing anything about heart attack.
Yeah, and that's where because in the chat it says like they saw it on TV, like live TV.
Yeah, on German TV.
Yeah, so if that just happened, like that, there's not going to be an article about it yet. So like it's going to be really hard.
I've even turned on cable news.
Okay.
Because I just put myself, and I'm not seeing anything about this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not going to see it on cable news because they're too focused on what's going on here. Like
I know I have Sean Hannity on, and he's talking about the Russia collusion narrative is dead and buried, but media hysteria continues on. We just get over this.
It's dead and buried, and that's why they're not reporting on the other big stories.
Yeah, the most recent article I can find was updated 5 hours ago, so it might take some time. And I mean, like this is something we might have to come back to later. Just not even on live stream. We could just talk about it on like our Facebook and Twitter page.
And they probably don't even know too much right now, so it's like it's probably all inconclusive. Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna keep an eye out for this though. I mean, like once I feel like I have, it might not even be until tomorrow if we have like a confirmation of if that actually happened or if it was just a misunderstanding or something. Yeah, hopefully we can figure it out. Like and then just it's insane though because everybody's got like all these different like viewpoints on this, and it's I don't know. Like I'm still trying to figure out this guy because I'm like, okay, is he like trying to is he trying to like rid kind of socialism out of there and like give power back to the people? Because it kind of sounds like that might be it, but I don't know. Like,
yeah. And I think it's like, people like us, like the libertarian crowd, I think we're having a hard time, like, really knowing what we're thinking of the situation. Because I think obviously one side of us wants Maduro gone so the people can prosper. But then another side is, trying to say we don't want our government to, interfere and basically play marionette over there.
Okay, here's the thing, too. Guaido, whatever his name is a member of the centrist Social Democratic Party, which
so not quite socialist, but
like it doesn't seem like it's quite socialist, but it's I mean like it seems like it's pretty actual socialist. It's like kind of our concept of like progressive left here, but it's not as like it's not really like communist kind of thing, and apparently
socialist.
Currently, he's recognized as acting president of Venezuela by 54 governments. That's pretty impressive, like for not actually being able to back it up. But I don't know. That's one of those weird things like that we tend to do. Oh, hey, and welcome. Yeah, we're still trying to like figure this out just from the chat. Because it just seems like somebody said that. It looked like Guaido had a heart attack, but they saw it on live, so we haven't been able to confirm that yet. But I don't know. It seems like some insane stuff, and I know like what we've been talking about is how our country's been backing this dude Juan Guaido, and but within actual Venezuela, like he has claimed himself to be the interim president, but like he doesn't have the military backing to enforce his presidency. He's got defectors, but he doesn't have enough, he says. And that's from what I've been reading and everything I've said. Like the most recent I've been able to find that updated is 5 hours ago. So there's still like a huge struggle going on of people like, his side and this Murado, is that the other guy? Murado? Yeah,
Maduro.
Maduro, thank you.
And by the way, if you make fun of our butchering of these names, you're actors.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but like I can't even like pronounce like just very phonetic names. Like I'm really bad at names, so I'm like, especially if it's from like a different country, I'm like I'm gonna fuck it up, and I'm sorry. Like if somebody can like phonetically pronounce it for me in the chat, I will try to correct myself, but I'm gonna do the best I can and roll with it.
This could be a snafu by German media also.
It could be too, yeah. I mean, like that's a lot of things get reported incorrectly sometimes. Like people are in a rush to push out news. So like if there's even hell, it could even be like the other dude. What was his name? Maduro. I keep fucking it up. It could even be like a tactic by them to try to be like, oh, he's dead, or something like that, just to like disenfranchise his people. But it's kind of insane though, just how all this stuff is going on. Oh shit! Sorry. There's a CNN says as of 11 hours ago, Venezuela's Maduro claims to have defeated coup as rival Guaido urges more protests. So like, yeah, it seems like I think this Maduro guy seems like he feels like he's got enough of the military backing that he doesn't think this coup is ever going to be successful. But here's where it's going to get tricky though, is if we're backing Guaido, we're going to end up getting involved.
Yeah.
Like
well, I'm not sure if you,
publicly or not, whether or not we officially put boots on ground or it's a black op, we're going to end up getting involved. If we're publicly backing this guy, our government is going to find some way to get involved in that coup because that's what we do best. We fuck with other people's countries.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And if we actually get physically involved, we're probably just going to wipe them clean real quick. Because I'm not sure if you remember this. It was probably about 8 months ago now. There was like a drone with some kind of explosive that was coming into a Maduro speech when Maduro was making a speech, and basically one hit to when it dropped and exploded into a trash can. And then basically the whole spot got blown up, and Maduro had all these armed guards around him, and all the armed guards just basically fled, and he had like maybe 5 or 6 people like actually trying to cover him.
Yeah. Real quick from the chat, Voiceless Revolution, the person who's from the UK. So we were talking about gun control and about the Second Amendment at the start of the stream. And in the chat, he says, gun control in action, sadly. This is why we have a mess in our country right now, to obviously not on a Venezuela level, but if they were to stop Brexit, ignoring our democratic vote, people will take to the streets, and it could get ugly for us too.
Yeah, and Voiceless Revolution, I like your input so far. So if there's, just keep at it if you got more input on it. I like, and just swear as much as like we don't have any. I go way overboard already, so unintentionally. It's part of my speech.
And speaking of which, France is still having their revolution too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard much news about it lately, but that's not been settled yet, has it?
Yeah,
no.
You it's funny because you heard so much more about the cathedral burning than the actual riots and protests that are going on over there.
It's almost surprising like how massively it was covered and then how quickly like little it was covered.
Yeah, like
I mean like that's your 24-hour news cycle at work, but like that's how our news works. Like they jump from thing to thing. But I mean, it is kind of insane how little it's being covered now, and I'm like, I don't know, like shit like that makes me feel suspect.
well, it's basically the stupidity factor.
Yeah.
They want to talk about like Trump tweets and stuff like that. It's like no, like actual things are going on that are worthy of reporting.
Yeah. Okay, I do want to say, because like I was talking about how Guaido has, like he does have like socialist ties, but it does seem like his whole intention of his coup is to provide a transitional government and free election and the end of socialism, the end of Maduro's socialist regime,
Maduro.
which I'm not sure if that means an end to socialism in general or just the end to that guy's specific style of socialism.
Right.
Because of like how badly it's screwed up. Because like that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to. From what I see, it doesn't seem like he wants socialism gone. But it seems like he's not liking the way that they're handling it right now because it's ruining people's lives. It's killing people. Like people are starving and stuff. So yeah, it seems like he wants an end to that specific regime.
So
I guess we'd have to see what comes out of it, whether it would be another socialist. But at least though he wants to install some free elections. Like that seems to be his big goal, is like give power back to the people, not to the government, for now at least. Oh, Mike, you might. Yeah. There's some stuff from the chat from Voiceless Revolution. If you want to touch on
that. He said Voiceless Revolutions talks about the French protest. He said the Yellow Vest protest in France, the problem is Macron is an EU puppet who fancies himself a bit of a dictator. He offered a tiny tax cut, but they won't fall for crumbs off the table. One of our team members, his name is Ben. He's from France. We had him on a stream several months ago, whenever this had first started, and he came on. He was explaining this more in detail, and he was saying that same thing about how Macron is offering like crumbs of what the French are asking for, but obviously they haven't taken it because the protests are still happening.
Do you remember the name of that stream? Because that's something I think was from what he's talking about. Voiceless Revolution might be interested in checking out. The one
I'll have to.
On. Okay.
I will have to go through.
Voiceless Revolution, real quick. I don't know if you're following us on any like social media. If you want to check out at @sarcasm_liberty on Twitter, and then is it just Sarcasm and Liberty for Facebook?
Yeah.
Sarcasm ampersand Liberty.
Yeah. If you just type in sarcasm ampersand, you get the little ampersand going on.
So if you want to check us out on there, because we're probably going to be, discussing this more here and there, and then make sure you definitely sub to us if you're not already. I just don't recognize the name, so I'm not sure if I've talked to you on Twitter yet. I usually run the Twitter page. So, try to keep following us, and definitely if you have some input, we always like having this kind of discussions and hearing what everybody else thinks about everything. Especially because I honestly feel like the bulk of our group is in the U.S., so like it is good to get some perspective from other parts in the country, especially on like when it's like a global something like it is like something in Venezuela, but like the whole globe has kind of got their eyes on there right now, and everybody's got a different opinion, country to country, about how things should or shouldn't be. So I always do like appreciate hearing some other kind of ideas or inputs or different points of view. It's definitely nice.
He doesn't use Twitter, or they don't use Twitter or Facebook. Never had accounts on them because I knew they'd turn into. They now block political figures, which is technically foreign interference. Yeah, that is true. They do ban certain political figures, especially Twitter.
Yeah. If you sub to us, though, Mike's usually running this kind of like what do we usually refer to this as? I had a term for it, like kind of like a weekly update kind of thing or something like that.
Yeah, we usually go over the most current events.
Yeah, Mike's usually running that. I've not been on the streams very much lately. I'm hoping to get more involved. Occasionally we'll have some more in the week pop up. I'm hoping to do that more, but make sure you sub and turn on notifications. So like, especially if there's like a big break, we might be able to do a stream specifically about this, like we did with the Paris riots, to kind of update everybody. So if you don't use Twitter or Facebook, that's fine. But you know, we're on YouTube and Instagram, and are we on anywhere else right now?
I know the
we're on
website's temporarily down.
Mines.
We're on Mines.
Who's running the Mines account?
I have no clue. Not me.
All right, maybe we should stop talking. We're making our organization look bad. We don't even know what's going on.
I know, like, because we've had this we've been kind of expanding to some of these new things, and I'm like, I know we've talked about it, but I've been off the chat for a while, and I'm like, I know it was one of us, but I don't remember which one of us was doing that.
Yeah, we're also reaching our hour.
Oh yeah. So, Voiceless Revolution, awesome. Thanks for subbing and everything.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, so and definitely with the bell icon, because like I said, like typically Mike does these streams every like Wednesday 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like, or you know, somebody else might sub in if he's busy. But I'm hoping to like kind of do some more like live streams like popping up here and there. So that's the best way to have the bell icon is if it just like randomly jumps up in front of you. That way you know.
Yeah. And for everyone else who's in the chat, also, if you like what you saw tonight, hit the subscribe button and tell your friends about us as well. For everyone who did tune in and watch tonight, we really appreciate it. We hope we kept you entertained with our rambling and babbling for the last 60 minutes.
I'm glad I was able to join tonight too, especially since there wasn't.
Yeah, glad to have you on tonight, Josh.
Yeah.
Really glad to have you on tonight.
And also, since we're closing up, if I could take a minute to talk about my new YouTube project.
Oh yeah, dude, go for it.
Sure, yeah.
So I will actually share the link on Facebook, and I'm sure we can have it retweeted. But
yeah,
I'm now on Defiant Lion on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 episodes up. So I'm just kind of having different kind of guests, very interesting stories. I had on the first episode, and I had a guy who thought human civilization only started 900 years ago on in the second episode. So very interesting, weird stuff on my channel if you want to check that out. That's the
Hey, when you like if you tweet about it, make sure you tag me so I see it, and I'll retweet it for you.
Will do.
All right. No, it was fun joining tonight. I know we kind of got off topic a lot, but it was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we do Saturday night streams. It just kind of depends.
Yeah.
And actually, something that Mike and I talked about beforehand was doing more Saturday night streams just to get more people on the panel. We're kind of in that time of the year where schedules get hectic and people have a lot more stuff going on. But just for everyone who's subscribed, you'll get a notification each time we go live. And but we plan to be on again next Wednesday night. Not sure we'll be talking about whatever current events are going on. But for those who watch, thank you very much. We will see you all again next week. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.